Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Prospectors Cash live stream. Hope everyone.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Prospectors Cash live stream. Hope everyone.
Sorry about that. I had another speaker turned on. But anyway, welcome to the live stream tonight. And I hope everyone had a great week of treasure hunting this week. And, I know I did. I had a lot of fun. And I want to talk about that in a few minutes. But tonight's subject, I'm just going to try to talk about metal detectors and how to get the most out of your metal detector. Uh, Specifically programs, custom programs, and what I think is probably one of the most important settings on a metal detector. Um, and I just want to talk about some of the things that I've learned using the XP-2 for over a year now. And, it applies to a lot of other detectors. I've owned a lot of detectors over my past 20 years of detecting. So, before we begin that, this actually relates to that. What I want to talk about is a hunt that we went on for our club this week. I got us permission to go to an 1836 ranch uh, near Castell, Texas, this week. It's kind of in between Llano and Castell, Texas. A lot of Spaniard activity dates back to the 1500s in that area, hence the name Llano. But this is a very old area, and it's been around for years and years and years. And we got permission to hunt one of the first ranches in that area, and it was certainly a lot of fun. Um, I'll show you some pictures here. This is the 1836 ranch house that you see here on the left. And then this guy had all kinds. I mean, you'll have to watch the video. I have a video out on this hunt. I just published it. But this guy has all kinds of old antique cars and things like that are on the property. Um, and I was able to hunt around here. As you can imagine, there was a ton of iron here. And so setting up your metal detector properly is one of the biggest things that you can do is learning your detector. And I certainly learned a lot about my detector on this particular hunt, basically because it was machine gun iron. The iron in the ground, I mean, it would just go constantly grunting at me with that grunt iron sound you get with an XP-2. And occasionally you'd get a blip in there. And I used a program called the Sweeper program that you find uh, NC Relic Hunter, Michael, and Brian from Southern Relic Adventures. They've kind of worked the details out of this Sweeper program. And I use this as this old 1836 ranch house. And I got to tell you, that Sweeper program, just the way Brian described it in his live stream, worked pretty darn good. But I had to make a few adjustments, and that's what I want to talk about later in this live stream is what adjustments you need to make to your detector and how to learn your detector and basically make adjustments on the fly. Um, so this old ranch house from 1836 was a lot of fun to hunt, and I did have some good finds, and a lot of other people that were with me from our club had a lot of good finds. I'll show you. You see my trash pile there on the left. It's a lot bigger than my so-called treasures, but I only put one of my square nails out there just to kind of show you what we were finding, and then I was finding all kinds of lead slag around the property too. That's above that 223 casing that you see there. And but I did find three silvers. Not a lot, but like I said, I was spending more time using this sweeper program, trying to figure out my detector more than anything, and uh, basically, learning your detector is hardest thing to do because I mean all detectors are a lot different, and I'll go into some of that in a few minutes. But first of all, I wanted to welcome some of our people on here. Uh, we have 79 custom jigs on there. It's David. David has a channel. He shows how to build crappie jigs, build mining equipment. Uses a knocked up the legend metal detector. And David is my hunting buddy. I go hunting with him a lot. Also, we have NC Relic Hunter. That's Michael, and Michael's a lot of times on Southern Relic Adventures live stream, and suggest you go visit, Southern Relic Adventures live stream. That's where I got the sweeper program off of, and I really enjoyed that. Um and So that was a really good program, and I really, really going to go into how I made adjustments and tweaked it for the site. Well, hello, stink ass cat. How are you doing tonight? I hope you're doing well. And we got Mike on here. He's asking a question here. He says, around what year was that house 1836 still occupied? Michael, it's still occupied today. I put my video up on hunting that house, and the landowner, the rancher, uh, gave a short introduction to that house, and it was occupied by a Confederate colonel that helped found the town of Castile, and Castile was founded in 1841. So this house was founded before the town of Castile, which is one of the oldest, towns in this area. Llano's been around since 1809 officially, but there are a lot of Spanish, conquistadors came up through here looking for silver. I mean, I'm sure you've probably heard about treasures like the Lost Bowie mine and, the San Saba mine and things like that. Those are some of the mines they found in this area and some of the things they've done. But this house is still occupied today. It is a working cattle ranch, and uh, I'll go back to the slide there. You'll see it is got curtains and everything. They've remodeled the inside of this house, and it's a nice home. And I was more impressed with the amount of cars that they had around this home than anything. They had all kinds of vehicles and stuff around there. So I mean, they had internationals that were international scouts that were dating back to the late 60s. They had, I think, the oldest truck they had on that property. David was there; he can probably correct me, but I think they had a 1950 Dodge pickup truck that was the original ranch truck on that property. But anyway, it's still a working cattle ranch, and they're still using it, but they give us permission to go out there and hunt. And we had a bunch of club members show up, and they have found a lot of great stuff on this property. And yeah, that is a old house in our part of the country. I mean, there are older homes, like I said, that date back into the 1500s, but those are all Spanish in origin. I've found some 1500 Spanish reals here. David says that truck was a 52, so that's the oldest truck I saw on the property. Anyway, I put pictures of all those in the video for people to go check out, and it was a lot of fun hunting this property. It was machine gun iron. I know NC Relic Hunter and uh, Southern Relic Adventures hunt machine gun iron all the time. When I say machine gun, it was constant iron. And that's what I want to get into talking about some tonight is some of the adjustments that I made to the sweeper program. But I don't want to really talk about just the XP Deus 2. I want to talk about what MindLab calls sweep speed, what the Deus 2, we call it the reactivity. On the Nocta Legend, they call it recovery speed. Basically, all that is, being a computer geek and working as a software engineer, is the refresh time on the microprocessor. So for instance, if they slow the refresh time on the microprocessor down, the microprocessor responds slower to the signal, which will give it um, a little more time to pump energy into the ground. Hence, uh, you'll get a lot of a lot more depth because it's punching energy into the ground a little bit longer. And if you increase the clock speed to that microprocessor and stuff, and increases that number, the recovery speed goes up, but the power in the ground is shorter. Therefore, it's sending the signals at a shorter intervals, and it kind of picks through the trash a lot easier. For instance, on the XP Deus 2, yeah, you can adjust the reactivity from 0, which is really deep, but if you have targets that are close together, it won't pick them up. uh, it won't. It'll average the two targets. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Did it here? If we had these two targets and they were right next to each other, and we had a recovery speed or sweep speed or reactivity set really low, like to 0, what would happen is it's the machine would take and analyze the whole group of these two signals, and it wouldn't separate the two. And as you sweep across it at that slower sweep speed, it would take and average these two numbers together. So, you would basically have the averaging of these two targets. If you turn the recovery speed or reactivity or sweep speed up higher to a higher number, what would happen is it would pick this target out and have time to recover and pick this target out. But what happens is it decreases the depth because the signal is putting energy in the ground for less time. I hope that explains how recovery speed works. And the point of this being, um, it's the point of this being is, even though we use custom programs, and I use the sweeper program that they have over on Southern Relic Adventures live stream, I made adjustments, and I know Michael will probably tell you the same thing. He probably makes adjustments to that program too, and never leaves it the same for any one site. As I hunted around the house, which was full of iron, I set my recovery speed up to 3 to kind of give me better separation between the iron and the good targets. And I was one of the only people that really recovered any coins on our hunt. We had a lot of people hunting with older single frequency machines, and you can't really adjust the sweep speed. So, um, what they call that is target masking, where the iron would mask the coin if you had to set recovery speed and you couldn't adjust it. So what it would look like is it would look like that. You'd look like all you're getting is a piece of iron. Whereas if you set your recovery speed a little higher, it would separate these two targets, and I would hear a high pitch for this, and I'd hear a grunt for this. So you get that little ping in between things, and that really helps you a lot when you're in heavy, heavy trash. Now, do you want to run like that? No, you want to adjust it for the amount of trash that you're getting or amount of iron you're getting in the area. Uh, so what I did in their sweeper program is I changed my iron volume down to 4 so it wouldn't drive me nuts. And I changed the reactivity up to 3 when I was hunting in the heavy iron, and I also set an offset to 10 on this, and it really helped the separation a lot. I eventually went up to an offset of 15, but it was separating a lot, but the numbers on the VDI weren't reading right. So I went back down to what's called an offset of 10. Now, what offset does is it gives you a number offset between iron and your good targets. So it's going to change your VDI some. So with that being said, that's how I adjusted around, made the adjustments for around the house. But when I got out into the field, there wasn't so much trash, so I bumped my reactivity down to 1, and I got a lot more depth on stuff. And that's where I picked up one of those mercury dimes I picked up that I showed you earlier at that deeper depth. So it's just one of those things that you have to play with your machine and learn your machine. Now, could I went out there and hunted this? Probably so with a factory setting on sensitive full tones. I could have, but it wouldn't have sounded as good. I made adjustments the way I like to hear stuff. And pretty much everything that they said in that sweeper program is the way I normally run my sensitive full tones programs, even for coin hunting and underwater. That's kind of what I set it on. I just make adjustments between full tones and pitch tones, and then also sometimes switch from high square to PWN, just depending on what I'm doing. That's on the XP Deus too, and you can do similar things on other things. And Michael says he loves hunting machine gun iron. Yeah, I know you do. You and Brian have found some great stuff, Michael, and um, that's for sure. I've seen some of your guys' stuff that you've shown. That's good. And Michaels also says, right, that's why signal tone is shortened and reactivity as the reactivity increases. That's right. I mean, you don't hear as long a beep as you hear normally on the detector. For instance, if you're running 1.5 reactivity, it's going to give you a nice long beep sound, but we're running reactivity of, 2.5 or 3, it's going to go beep, and that's kind of the way it sounds. And David, I'm wondering about you, man. He says he loves my legs. Huh? I never had a guy tell me that before, David. I'm flattered. Anyway, uh, Michael says, I usually run reactivity from 2.5 to 3 in heavy iron like you. Yep, that's it. And I have also had good luck with running reactivity higher and highly mineralized soil as well. Yeah, we don't have a lot of mineralized soil around here. We do have a little bit of black sand to deal with down near the rivers, but it's not too bad. Um, uh, no. So David's asking a really good question. He says, "How do you set up your sweep speed for water?" So in water, obviously you can't swing the coil as fast, right? So typically I run my sweep speed down around zero point 0.5, which is really, really slow because I'm moving the coil so slowly. And typically in rivers, the targets will hit the rivers around here anyway, they hit a hard clay layer and the coins and stuff doesn't go very deep. So typically I'm not looking for deep targets at all. But the reason I set the sweep speed lower is it just seems to make the coil bigger around. And in other words, if I hit a target with the edge of the coil, it just sounds so much better. I don't have to be right over the center of the coil to get a signal, and kind of zones me into the target a little bit better. So if you're running a low sweep speed like that, and you get even close to the target, then that kind of draws you into where you can kind of pinpoint on the target a little bit better. Um, but if you're running a high sweep speed, what I've noticed is the coil gets smaller in diameter. Actually, I mean, it doesn't pick the signal up as good on the edges of the coil as well with a higher sweep speed. So I like running low sweep speeds in the river, and that's basically because underwater you just can't move the coil that fast anyway. And then also I'm running a smaller coil underwater, a 9-inch coil, because I don't want all that water drag on it. So a 9-inch coil is what I use underwater, and I wish XP made a smaller coil actually, but the 9-inch coil is what I'm currently using. And a lot of our rivers have cracks and crevices and bedrocks that the rings and jewelry get caught up in. So a smaller coil would do better, but right now, the only choice we got with an XP is the 9-inch coil. And to make that coil a little bit larger and cover a little bit more ground, I use a lot lower reactivity. And I suggest that, on your mine labs and your Noctis that you lower your recovery speeds and your sweep speeds down really low as well. So it increases the size of your coil. For instance, on the Nocta, if you're running the 6-inch coil, you really want to run a really low sweep speed so that coil picks up a bigger diameter, but you can still get it into the cracks and crevices along bedrock, and that's or around rocks or around moss and stuff like that. Michael says on here, he says, I'm hoping for an elliptical fourth coil for the Deus too. I am too, Michael. Everybody keeps mentioning the HF coil like they have on the Deus 1. Um, that HF coil would be a great one. I mean, especially for us gold prospectors. As you notice, the sign back here says Prospectors Cash. Well, that's where I started being a gold prospector. And I still love gold prospecting. And the elliptical coils that are running higher frequencies are the way to go. As you go up in frequency, um, I saw a thing a few years back where a guy did a study and said the resonant frequency of gold for electrical signals is around 68 kilohertz. So I think the high frequency coil that they got for the DS1 goes up to 71 kilohertz, which has that covered. So I think that, since we're looking for gold rings, even though they do have sometimes silver content, they're only 14 karat, which is a little bit more than half gold, and they're alloyed with things like nickel, aluminum, and copper, things like that, to get the colors of the gold looking good. I think that a high frequency coil would be better for picking up jewelry because of, I think just because of the resonant frequency of gold. Since silver is such a very high conductor, I mean, gold is actually a poor conductor. A lot of people don't know that. They think gold is a high conductor. But if you look at the conductivity, copper and silver are way higher conductors, with silver being the highest conductor. And then it's copper, and then you have aluminum, which is a lower conductor. And iron is a conductor, but iron is subjective on what type of iron it is. There's like 400 different types of iron, and it's depending on uh, what type of iron it is, on how conductive it is. For instance, one old can of soda made of one type of iron is different from another old can of soda that's made because the conductivity of the iron is different. 79 Custom Jig says, I hear on Facebook that Nocta is coming out with waterproof bone conducting headphones. Well, I thought me and you were going to develop those. We're having trouble finding those, but that would be good if they did, because I tell you, underwater, there is nothing better than bone conducting headphones. I mean, I've tried everything. I've used my favorite ones for underwater that were regular headphones were the Gray Ghost. But still, those are hard to hear underwater. When your ears fill up with water, and you put headphones over the top of the sound has to be really phenomenally loud from headphones to penetrate the water in your ears. That hence, when you walk around with water in your ears, you can't hear very good when you're above water. So, when you put water in your ears, you can't hear through your ears. Bone conducting headphones don't go through that route so you can hear it. It sits on your bones on your cheek and vibrates here, and you hear it through the bones. So, bone conducting headphones are, in my opinion, a must for an underwater metal detectorist. I use the Mind Lab waterproof Excalibur for years and years and years. And Excalibur was a really good machine, but I always suffered with not being able to hear underwater with that machine. So a lot of times you have to hold your breath to hear targets, and which is not a good thing. You're never supposed to hold your breath while you're diving. That's just a general rule of diving. But um, it's you get air embolisms and stuff from holding your breath. It's not good. So, I think that bone conducting headphones are the way of the future. Only thing is, if you look on Amazon, you can't find any bone conducting headphones for any other metal detectors right now other than the Deus 2. So that is my main reason for having an XP Deus 2 is because of the bone conducting headphones. I find that the bone conducting headphones are the way to go. Also, we had our club president had surgery to remove cancers on his ears, and he couldn't put normal headphones over his ears, or even those little headphones that they give you with a WS6 module on the Deus 2. So he tried the bone conducting headphones on land, and that's all he ever hunts is on land. And he found that those worked really good on land. And so I tried them out on land one day when it was really hot, and they worked fine. So um, I think I think those bone conducting headphones are a good thing to have in your arsenal. Hot days in Texas, I don't think you can beat them. That's going to be my go-to when it's 100 degrees out. Is the bone conducting headphones. Nocta also is kind of leading their way. I was kind of David hasn't given me a full tour of the Nocta pinpointer yet, but from what I've seen looking over his shoulder, it looks like a pretty darn good pinpointer. The problem I'm having right now, and I haven't had this problem, but I know several people have reported this issue, and I check mine daily, is they are running or their XP MI6 pinpointers because XP is having problems with the lids cracking and letting water into the pinpointer, and it just totally destroys the pinpointer. And I'm pretty sure XP knows they have a problem with those lids that screw on cracking. So I check mine all the time to make sure there's no cracks in it, just to make sure. But that's another reason that I would be looking for another pinpointer underwater. I do have um the Quest pinpointers, and those I don't know. They just I can't hear them underwater. The speaker doesn't tend to work, so you just got to feel vibration. The speaker does make a little sound, but it's hard to hear. Whereas MI6, you can hear it really nice underwater. So pinpointers are getting more popular. I haven't seen the new Mind Lab. Let me know if any of you guys have seen those. Um, uh, Michael says he had a cap crack here. He said, I really like the looks of the Nocta pinpointer and had a cap crack on my amps. Yeah, I watched David's there at that hunt we went to, and I like 79 Custom Jigs' pinpointer. It's really a nice one. Um, I did like the XPs because I could pair them up with the Deus 2, but since I use them underwater, the cap cracking is a non-starter for me, and I'm just like really paranoid. I'm gonna flood my, $170 pinpointer, and it's just it's kind of frustrating that XP hasn't come out with a better cap. Maybe they could make a aftermarket metal cap that would go on top of those, like made out of aluminum or something, because the way the things screw on there, they screw on there very tight after you charge them. So tight sometimes it's hard to get them off, and I've actually had to use channel locks to get mine off one time before, which is not helping the cracking issue at any point. But the way they screw on is just so tight, it's ridiculous. So that's my take on the XPMI6 pinpointer, is that the cracking issues on the thing. Another thing, from what I hear, the Mind Lab pinpointer is supposed to be really good too. I haven't seen one. I think they're coming out with that in response to Nocta, because as soon as Nocta come out with their simplex for the low price, they Mind Lab come out with the Xterra you see sitting over here. They come out with one of those, and to answer for the simplex. And as soon as Nocta comes out with their pinpointer, here comes Mind Lab announcing their pinpointer. So that was a good thing. Michael says, a tip I learned is threads get tight on the MI6, so I put a little white lithium grease on the O-rings on the threads. Michael, I've been wanting to go buy some lithium grease. I live way out in the country, and I don't even know if you can buy it like at Home Depot or Lowe's or anything. So if you know, where did you get your lithium grease from? You just an auto parts store, or what do you go in and ask for? Like a vacuum grease, or I don't know. I don't know much about grease. I'm not a grease person. Um, we got Hello, Josh. Welcome to the channel. Josh Staples says, I've got a tech point and not sure where that rates. I've never heard of a tech point. So I don't know. Maybe somebody else is uh, familiar with that. Josh, I've never heard of that brand. I mean, I know the major ones like Garrett and Nocta and MindLab and XP and Quest, and I know there's a lot more out there. I know the Whites one was real popular for a long time, but Whites went out of business and they're hard to get. I've seen some of the old Whites pinpointers selling for $300 now because people still want them. Michael says we can get that lithium grease at Amazon, he believes. I'll check that out, Michael. Oh, my buddy David says he carries some in his dive bag. Well, I might get a little bit of that and put on my pinpointer there from you, David. That would be good. Like I said, I don't have any. I know they use it for like vacuum grease for getting good seals on things and stuff like that. But I've never bought any, and I don't, I've never used any. So uh, that's something I'll need probably look into getting some of that. The top of my pinpointer's been okay, and like I said, I've had mine for over a year now, and it hasn't cracked. But there is a issue with them cracking. I know over on Mental Metals channel, um, he did a short take about his concerns. He's bought a brand new one, and it was cracked right out of the box. Uh, we have Brian on here from Southern Relic Adventures. Brian, we've been talking about you all night long. I've been talking about using your sweeper program at a relic site that I went to from 1836. I'll just show you a picture of the old house. People still live in it. And I went to this house with our club, and it was a machine gun iron, and I was able to pull targets out of there when very few other people were able to pull targets out of there, Brian. So it was awesome. I love your sweeper program. We were talking about reactivity, um, how that is probably the only thing I adjusted on your sweeper program that made a big difference in hunting that machine gun iron. I went up to a 3 reactivity, and that got a little unstable. But I found 2.5 was manageable, and this place was just loaded in iron. I mean, it just sounded crazy in there. And I've suggested everybody on here go over to your live stream that you did on the sweeper program and look it up. It's a um, great live stream. I went back and looked at it right before I came on here, and made sure that I hadn't changed any other settings other than reactivity. And that's the only thing I changed, Brian, and it worked great. And like I said, we had other people out there using XP Deuses and other multi frequency machines, and they weren't finding any coins, and I was picking them out of that iron. So so that was awesome. I mean, it worked well. I was able to get in amongst that trash and find some good coins, and it was uh, really awesome things. NC Relic Hunter saying, Josh, I think the Tech Point is a pulse induction pinpointer and very good on the beach. I know David uses a vibra probe sometimes, and that's a pulse induction detector, and his seems to work. It's waterproof, uh, waterproof as well. Um, Maybe Southern Relic Adventures has heard of a Tech Point pinpointer. I've never heard of one. We were talking pinpointers, Southern Relic Adventures, before you got on here, and I was talking about how there's Mental Metal and a few other people are saying they got brand new MI6 pinpointers and the lid was cracked on them. And I've had mine over a year and the lid isn't cracked, but it's something I check all the time because I dive and diving with my Blue 3 over here. And since I dive so much, I have to check that because if I get in the water and get it wet, it's going to, it's going to just quit working. And I've tried I got a Quest pinpointer, what they call the one with the magic holster, or, basically you pull it out of the holster and it comes on by itself. That's the Quest pinpointer that I use, and it works okay. Of course, the Magic holster doesn't work underwater, but um, the pinpointer works underwater. I just can't hear it. And we were talking about the new Nocta pinpointer and how well David likes his. And I was looking over his shoulder, and I really like that new Nocta pinpointer. And I can't wait to see the Mind Lab pinpointer, see what it looks like. Pinpointers is one of those things that I think is super, super important, especially when you get in trash. Um, I mean, some of the target, when I turned my pinpointer on, and if I couldn't have adjusted the sensitivity like I can with the MI6, it would have been crazy because, you would have never pinpointed. There was so much iron in the ground where I was hunting this week that uh, the pinpointer was going off all the way around the hole. So I had to detune my pinpointer several times just trying to tune in on the silver quarter and the 2 mercury dimes that I found out of that. And Brian said he never had a problem with it in my six. I haven't either, Brian. I haven't had a problem with it either. It's mine's worked good. I've had it over a year now. It's worked good. Some of the issues I've had with it is getting the lid off after you crank it down to make sure it's waterproof underwater. You want that lid good and tight. And sometimes when I fasten that down a lot, what happens is the um, lid gets on there so tight that I can't get it off afterwards. So I've actually had to go to channel locks with a rag wrapped around it to actually loosen it up. So that's been my only complaint I've had with the MI6 pinpointer is the lid itself, getting it on and off. And then I've heard all these issues of other people talking about them cracking. I've saw Mental Metal. Scott was talking about that he had problems with his. He sent it back to XP and they give him a new pinpointer. But when he got his brand new pinpointer, the lid was cracked right from the factory. So that kind of concerned me a little bit. Um, yeah, the Nocta AccuPoint, man, that's the one I'll be looking at next. I really want one that doesn't have problems with the lid cracking. One I can turn on underwater. I don't have to worry about it getting wet. Uh, One that I can detune on when I'm in an area full of iron targets and things like that. And so I'm just looking for, just a pinpointer that works well in all conditions. I don't have issues with, lids cracking and things. NC Relic Hunter says that white lithium grease should keep it from getting seized up and stay waterproof. Maybe that's the problem I'm having with it, Michael. Maybe since I'm not using any grease on it, maybe the thing is just on there so tight it what doesn't, I have to tighten it down to get that little rubber seal sealed around there. Maybe that lithium grease will make it screw on a little bit easier and come off a little bit easier. I'm thinking about ordering a spare cap for mine too, just to keep on hand so it doesn't ruin one of my dive trips. I think since there's so many of them cracking, I think having a spare one would be a good idea. And it's just one of those things that that you got to keep in your spare kit. I keep those spare red diving plugs because they're so small. The little plugs you screw in the bottom to the XP 2. I just keep spares of those around, um, because of that. Uh, Other things I keep is spare antenna wires, because there's been a lot of those break off and ruined people's trips. Um, so the antenna wires, the caps, the things like that. And it's kind of sad, on a $1,500 detector, you've got to keep spare antenna wires and spares for things that break, antenna clips, and the actual clip where it clips on. I finally went with an RC Diggs control housing cover, but you know, overall, there's no detector out there will touch the XP 2 on its ability to multitask. I mean, it's a detector I can dive with 60 foot deep. It's a detector that I can go relic hunting in the worst areas ever in iron. It's a detector that I can go wading on the beach and uh, beach hunt in the worst of minerals, and it just does just a great job. And it's so adjustable and so versatile machine. I just don't see anything out there touching it right now as far as versatility. There are machines that are just as good on recovery. I mean, the Manicore, I've got a lot of friends that have bought those and been disappointed. I had one friend that bought one of those, and he's a Mind Lab guy, so he ended up going to a Mind Lab Equinox 900 and selling his Manicore, and he just out and out told me that he liked the Equinox much better than he did the Manicore. So, with that being said, about pinpointers and my soapbox tonight about all of the stuff going on and all that stuff, I'll tell you, any detector you have, what we were talking about earlier, learning how to adjust your detector is key. Programs are great, and there are hundreds of programs. I mean, Tennessee Sharpshooter has the Bird Dog program. Mental Metal has coin hunting programs and beach programs. I know Calabash has a few programs. There are tons of programs out there, but I think the most important thing is not depend on a program, but learn how to adjust your detector on the fly for the conditions that you're in. And I don't know if any of the rest of you agree with me on that, but that's my feeling on programs. I mean, uh, find a good base program. Like I said, I really like that sweeper program because it is a good base program based on sensitive full tones. And I can make a few little tweaks to that, and I can go water hunting, and I can, do anything with my detector uh, that I want to based on that one program. And pretty much how Southern Relic Adventure set that sweeper program up, that's how I set my machine up to start with, and then I adjust from there. I mean, you got to have a baseline of where to start. And I got to tell you that sweeper program, in my mind, is a good basis to start on the XP Deus 2. Some of the things I adjust on there are offset, obviously sensitivity. Obviously, we talked about reactivity in length at length earlier. Reactivity is very, very crucial on any detector. In my mind, it's one of the most important adjustments on any detector. Um, I adjust for sound. Sometimes in some areas I use 5 tones. Some areas like beaches and stuff like that, I prefer full tones. Some areas where I'm not concerned about the tonal nuances, I'm more concerned about the target. uh, uh, the target size, I'll switch to pitch tones. So I think that, learning what your machine will do and what sounds it can create, what sounds you're hearing, my hearing, I like higher numbers. I mean, on five tones, for instance, for my high conductors, I run, 940 something kilohertz. So, that's pretty high. Most people are running in the eights. So I like the higher tones. And um, so it just depends on where you are, guys. I think that, learning to use your detector and learning how to make start with a base program, like a park program if on Nocta, or start with, you know, one of the programs on whichever mind lab you're using, and use that as your base program, but go and then make some tweaks to that, save that program off as your favorite, and then make adjustments to your favorite every time you go someplace. Michael says that I'm glad when somebody agrees with me, by the way, Michael. He says, "You're right, Tom. Adjust to suit the site." Yep. And that's what I found, especially hunting that old 1836 cabin. It had iron everywhere. Still a working cattle ranch today, and it had iron everywhere. And I would not have pulled those silver coins out, and if I had not played with the reactivity adjustments on that machine, that was so critical to finding those coins. And I just think it's vital that you know how to adjust your machine. I don't know how to say it any other way. Southern Relic Adventure says that's why the Deus 2 is the most versatile machine made. You can make the adjustments that you need to suit your needs and situations. Exactly right. Exactly right. It is a versatile machine. I mean, uh, I mean, I can't I can't sing its praises high enough. Even though I've been complaining about all the little things that break, like the little clips that hold the control box on, and the antenna wires, and the XP MI6 pinpointer caps. All of their stuff is just performance top notch. And those little things that I'm having to work around, like replacing a control box housing with a RC Diggs unit, that those things there I can live with. I mean, but having a machine that I can go have one machine and I do it all. I mean, I go diving. I mean, hunt beaches, hunt relic sites, hunt parks, hunt. I can go gold prospecting with it. I tested the thing on a lot of my gold nuggets that I got laying around here, and it hits every one of them down to little small ones. I've got one on a stick that's the size of a pinhead, and it picks it up. So you can't beat that, especially with a 2.0 update. I just updated to 2.0, and man, that 2.0 update for prospecting really hits nicely. If you guys haven't tried it, I don't know if you guys that's got the Deus 2s. Anybody else tried the 2.0? I've just now plugged it in. Seems to work the same as 1.1, but the prospecting seems a lot uh, more sensitive, I want to say. Yes, multiple tone options are, as well as ability to adjust them even more with equalizer setting. And see, relic hunting is I pretty much I don't the equalizer setting. I don't have it quite figured out. I adjusted it the way several people, specifically Calabash, said to adjust it. I just set it the way they said set it, and it sounds good to me. Basically, the higher frequencies I set to a higher dB level, and the lower frequencies I kind of tuned out with the mid frequencies. I left them stock. And it's just so I could hear the higher frequencies a little bit better. But I haven't really played with that much. It'd be something I really want to try more is the equalizer. Maybe you guys got some input on that, on what you think it works best. Um, but yeah, I do like the tone options you're given with this machine. I mean, the ability to adjust tones for different targets is great. I mean, for instance, when I'm hunting coins only, I set my nickels at the same level as I set my silver at. So a nickel sounds just like a silver dollar to me. I mean, as far as tone goes, so that's, when I'm running 5 tones or something, I'll set my nickels to be the same tones as silver. And, it's just one of them things that, you're so adjustable that you can do that kind of stuff. And some tones like pull tab tones, I turn it down to 0 where you can't hear anything. That's with the volume control that we now have. If I'm in an area that's just infested with pull tabs, I'll just notch out pull tabs, not by using the notch, but by using the sound. I actually turn the volume off to the pull tabs. So that's some of the tips that I've got on the Deus 2 and what I did this week at the 1836 Ranch House. And if you guys don't have anything else on here today, I want to start signing off here and suggest everybody go over Southern Relic Adventure site and try out his site. If you haven't been there, I really highly recommend that. Uh, if you're watching this in a future time, you'll be able to find Southern Relic Adventures channel on there, I'm sure. So I totally suggest you that. He's also got an Amazon store that he runs with a lot of the products that he recommends. So I suggest you go try that out. And if nobody else has anything, I'm gonna get off of here. And we've been on here about 52 minutes, and uh, so that's been a good long while, and I don't want to keep dragging on and making the show go a long time. And anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and God bless you, and get out and do some hunting. We'll talk to you later.